The correct answer here is 9 to 13. And part B, I don't know why a lot of you got part A correct, but then you got part B wrong. Part B is 330. A lot of you got 110. There are several different ways to do this question. I'm going to do it using repeated identity. The number of boys and girls taking part in the quiz are in the ratio 7 to 4. Then we put the students into two groups, right? And so 30% of the boys and 60% of the girls are in group P. And the rest of the students are in group Q. So what do we know? We write out the first ratio, which is boys to girls. We know that the ratio is 7 to 4. Of this 7 to 4, what happened? We split the boys into P and Q, right? But we also split the girls into P and Q. What do we know about the boys who went to P? 30% of the boys went to P, right? Can I go and find the number of units? If I let this be 7U and I let this be 4U, can I go and find the actual number of boys that went to P? Can. It's 30%, right? So your boys in P is 30%, which is 30 out of 100. How many boys are there? There are 7 units worth of boys, right? This one, you just go and press your calculator. And you will find that this just gives you 2.1 units. So we know that this is 2.1U. And once you find B in P is 2.1U, you can actually find the number of boys in Q, right? It is just your total of 7U minus 2.1U to give you 4.9U. And you will repeat the same process for girls. We know that girls in P is 60%. So 60 out of 100. How many units of girls are there in total? 4 units. This will give you 2.4U. So this is 2.4U. And therefore, you can, again, same thing, find the number of girls in Q, which is 4 units minus 2.4U equals to 1.6U. Some of you make mistakes because you try to avoid or you are not comfortable with the idea of using fractional or decimal units. But if it's a calculator question, it doesn't matter. You just press the calculator only. What's so difficult about that? Right? Don't try to avoid working it in decimal or fractional units and then you try to convert into a common multiple. But sometimes when you all try to convert into common multiple, you forget to multiply both sides. So if you do it this way, it's relatively safe. And therefore, the ratio of the number of students in P to the number of students in Q P is 2.1U plus 2.4U, while Q is 4.9U plus 1.6U. You will get 4.5U to 6.5U. Simplify it using your calculator. You press it as a fraction. 4.5 out of 6.5 will give you 9 over 13. And therefore, the ratio here is 9 to 13. Make sure you use your calculator to simplify. In fact, some of you, technically, you will skip the second step there and you just directly press the whole thing to your calculator. Okay, so that's why the answer to part A is 9 to 13. So don't be afraid to make use of fractional or decimal units, especially in calculator questions. Okay? Unfortunately, if your A is wrong, your B is also going to be wrong, for sure, because there is no way for you to get the correct set of values. Number of boys in P is fewer than 70. What is the largest possible total number of students taking part in the quiz. So how many units of boys in P do we have? We have 2.5 units, 2.1 units. So what's the largest possible number that you can make? You have 2.1 units, right? But obviously we don't work in 2.1 unit. What do we work in? We work in terms of multiples of 21. So your number of boys in P represented by 2.1 units means that this is a multiple of 21. Okay, so you need to recognize that 2.1 units here will mean that the answer has to be a multiple of 21. And if you recognize there's a multiple of 21, 21, 42, 63, 84, 84 is out because it must be fewer than 70. And therefore, the largest possible number of boys in P is 63. Okay? And that means your 2.1 unit represents 63 boys. And therefore, 1 unit represents 63 divided by 2.1, which will give me 30. What does the question want? The question wants the total number of students taking part in the quiz, which means boys plus girls, which if we look at our original, it is 11 units. And therefore, 11U is 30 times 11 to give me 330. Okay? So understanding here, 2.1 unit, even though it's a decimal value, it is the equivalent of 21 units. And so your answer to the number of boys has to be a multiple of 21. And the largest possible multiple of 21 without going over 70 is 63.